not just from your own campaign directly, John, but 527s and other organizations that make some pretty tough accusations. Well, I don't mind being attacked for the next 3 weeks. What the American people can't afford, though, is 4 more years of failed economic policies. And what they deserve over the next 4 weeks is that we talk about what's most pressing to them, the economic crisis. Senator McCain's own campaign said publicly last week that if we keep on talking about the economic crisis, we lose. So we need to change the subject. And I would love to see the next 3 weeks devoted to talking about the economy, devoted to talking about healthcare, devoted to talking about energy, and figuring out how the American people can send their kids to college. And that is something that I would welcome. But it requires, I think, a recognition that politics as usual, has been practiced over the last several years, is not solving the big problems here in America.
Well, if you'll turn on the television, as I watched the Arizona Cardinals defeat the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday, every other ad was an attack ad on my health care plan. And any objective observer has said it's not true. You're running ads right now that say that I oppose federal funding for stem cell research. I don't. You're running ads that misportray completely my position on immigration. So the fact is that Senator Obama is spending unprecedented in the history of American politics, going back to the beginning, amounts of money in negative attack ads on me. And of course I've been talking about the economy. Of course I talk to people like Joe the plumber and tell him that I'm not going to spread his wealth around. I'm going to let him keep his wealth. And of course we're talking about a positive plan of action to restore this economy and restore jobs in America. That's what my campaign is all about, and that's what it'll continue to be all about. But again, I did not hear a repudiation of Congressman Lewis.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk about Congressman Lewis, who is an American hero, he, unprompted by my campaign, without my campaign's awareness, made a statement that he was troubled with what he was hearing at some of the rallies that your running mate was holding, in which all the Republican reports indicated were shouting, when my name came up, things like terrorists, and kill him. And that your running mate didn't mention, didn't stop, didn't say, hold on a second, that's kind of out of line. And I think Congressman Lewis's point was that we have to be careful about how we deal with our supporters. Now,
You've got to read what he said.
Let me complete my response. I do think that he inappropriately drew a comparison between what was happening there and what had happened during the Civil Rights Movement. And we immediately put out a statement saying that we don't think that comparison is appropriate. And in fact, afterwards, Congressman Lewis put out a similar statement saying that he had probably gone over the line. The important point here is, though, the American people have become so cynical about our politics because all they see is a tit for tat and back and forth. And what they want is the ability to just focus on some really big challenges that we face right now. And that's what I have been trying to focus on this entire campaign. We can have serious differences about our health care policy, for example, John, because we do have a difference on health care policy.
We do, and I hope we talk about it.
Talking about it this evening.
Sure.
But when people suggest that I pal around with terrorists, then we're not talking about issues. What we're talking about
let me just say categorically, I'm proud of the people that come to our rallies. Whenever you get a large rally of 10, 15, 20,000 people, you're going to have some French peoples, you know that. And we've always said that that's not appropriate. But to somehow say that group of young women who said military wives for McCain are somehow saying anything derogatory about you, but anything, and those veterans that wear those hats that say World War II, Vietnam, Korea, Iraq, that I'm not going to stand for people saying that the people that come to my rallies are anything but the most dedicated, patriotic men and women that are in this nation, and they're great citizens. And I'm not going to stand for somebody saying that because someone yells something at a rally. There's a lot of things that have been yelled at your rallies, Senator Obama, that I'm not happy about either. In fact, some T-shirts that are very unacceptable. So the point is that I have repudiated every time someone's been out of line, whether they've been part of my campaign or not. And I will continue to do that. But the fact is that we need to absolutely not stand for the kind of things that have been going on. I haven't.
Well, look, Bob, as I said...
do you take issue with that?
You know, here's what I would say. I mean, we can have a debate back and forth about the merits of each other's campaigns. I suspect we won't agree here tonight. What I think is most important is that we recognize that to solve the key problems that we're facing, if we're going to solve 2 wars, the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression, if we're going to focus on lifting wages that have declined over the last 8 years and create jobs here in America, then Democrats, Independents, and Republicans, we're going to have to be able to work together. And what is important is making sure that we disagree without being disagreeable. And it means that we can have tough, vigorous debates around issues. What we can't do, I think, is try to characterize each other as bad people. And that has been a culture in Washington that's been taking place for too long. And I think
you asked me a direct question about it. Real quick. Mr. Ayers, I don't care about an old washed-up terrorist, but as Senator Clinton said in her debates with you, we need to know the full extent of that relationship. We need to know the full extent of Senator Obama's relationship with Acorn, who is now on the verge of maybe perpetrating one of the greatest frauds in voter history in this country, maybe destroying the fabric of democracy. Same front outfit organization that your campaign gave $832,000 for quote, lighting and site selection. So all of these things need to be examined, of course.
I'm going to let you respond.
It's going to
extend this.
It's going to be important to just, I'll respond to these two particular allegations that Senator McCain's made that have gotten a lot of attention. In fact, Mr. Ayers has become the centerpiece of Senator McCain's campaign over the last 2 or 3 weeks. This has been their primary focus. So let's get the record straight. Bill Ayers is a professor of education in Chicago. 40 years ago, when I was 8 years old, he engaged in despicable acts with a radical domestic group. I have roundly condemned those acts. 10 years ago, he served, and I served, on a school board that was funded by one of Ronald Reagan's former ambassadors and close friends, Mr. Annenberg. Other members on that board were the presidents of the University of Illinois, the president of Northwestern University, who happens to be a Republican, the president of the Chicago Tribune, a Republican-leaning newspaper. Mr. Ayers is not involved in my campaign. He has never been involved in this campaign, and he will not advise me in the White House. So that's Mr. Ayers. Now, with respect to ACORN, ACORN is a community organization. Apparently what they've done is they were paying people to go out and register folks. And apparently some of the people who were out there didn't really register people. They just filled out a bunch of names. Had nothing to do with us. We were not involved. The only involvement I've had with ACORN was I represented them alongside the U.S. Justice Department in making Illinois implement a motor voter law that helped people get registered at DMVs. Now, the reason I think that it's important to just get these facts out is because the allegation that Senator McCain's continually made is that somehow my associations are troubling. Let me tell you who I associate with. On economic policy, I associate with Warren Buffett and former Fed Chairman Paul Volcker. If I'm interested in figuring out my foreign policy, I associate myself with my running mate Joe Biden, or with Dick Lugar, the Republican ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, or General Jim Jones, the former Supreme Allied Commander of NATO. Those are the people, Democrats and Republicans, who have shaped my ideas and who will be surrounding me in the White House. And I think the fact that this has become such an important part of your campaign, Senator McCain, says more about your campaign than it says about me.
Well, again, while you were on the board of the Woods Foundation, you and Mr. Ayers together, you sent $230,000 to ACORN. So, and you launched a political campaign in Mr. Ayers' living room.
That's absolutely not true.
And the facts are facts, and records are records. And it's not the fact that Senator Obama chose to associate with a guy who in 2001 said that he wished he'd Obama more, and he had a long association with him. It's the fact that all of the details need to be known about Senator Obama's relationship with them and with ACORN, and the American people will make a judgment. And my campaign is about getting this economy back on track, about creating jobs, about a brighter future for America. And that's what my campaign is about. And I'm not going to raise taxes the way Senator Obama wants to raise taxes in a tough economy. And that's really what this campaign is going to be about.
All right, let's go to the next topic, and we may want to get back into some of this during this next discussion. I want to ask both of you about the people that you're going to bring into the government. And our best insight yet is who you picked as your running mates. So I'll begin by asking both of you this question, and I'll ask you to answer first, Senator Obama. Why would the country be better off if your running mate became president rather than his running mate?
Well, Joe Biden, I think, is one of the finest public servants that has served in this country. It's not just that he has some of the best foreign policy credentials of anybody, and Democrats and Republicans alike, I think, acknowledge his expertise there. But it's also that his entire life, he has never forgotten where he came from. Coming from Scranton, fighting on behalf of working families, remembering what it's like to see his father lose his job and go through a downward spiral economically. And as a consequence, his consistent pattern throughout his career is to fight for the little guy. That's what he's done when it comes to economic policies that will help working families get a leg up. That's what he's done when it comes to, for example, passing the landmark 1994 crime bill, the Violence Against Women's Act. Joe has always made sure that he is fighting on behalf of working families. And I think he shares my core values and my sense of where the country needs to go. Because after 8 years of failed policies, he and I both agree that what we're going to have to do is to reprioritize, make sure that we're investing in the American people. Give tax cuts not to the wealthiest corporations, but give them to small businesses and give them to individuals who are struggling right now. Make sure that we finally get serious about energy independence, something that has been languishing in Washington for 30 years. And make sure that our kids get a great education and can afford to go to college. So on the key issues that are important to American families, Joe Biden's always been on the right side, and I think he will make an outstanding president if, heaven forbid, something happened to me.
Senator.
Well, Americans have gotten to know Sarah Palin. They know that she's a role model to women and other reformers all over America. She's a reformer. She took on a governor who was a member of her own party when she ran for governor. When she was the head of their Energy and Natural Resources Board, she saw corruption, she resigned. And said, this can't go on. She's given money back to the taxpayers. She's cut the size of government. She negotiated with the oil companies and faced them down a $40 billion pipeline of natural gas that's going to relieve the energy needs of of what they call the lower 48. She's a reformer through and through. And it's time we had that breath of fresh air coming into our nation.